Throughout history, nothing has been more intriguing than the story of the legendary Bigfoot. This week on Expedition Texas, we explore the legend of Bigfoot and travel to a place where he's been spotted and explore his purported territory at night.
Texas is full of lost history, from lost cemeteries to abandoned buildings, from the infamous to the obscure. Hitch a ride and travel across the Lone Star State, looking for hints of Texas' colorful past, our lost history. This is Expedition Texas, and we're gonna find it.
According to Wikipedia, in North American folklore, Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, is said to be a hairy, upright, walking, ape-like creature that dwells in the wilderness and leaves footprints. Depictions often portray them as a missing link between humans and human ancestors or great apes. They're strongly associated with Pacific Northwest, but we've spotted our fair share in East Texas, or at least I've been told. Folklorists trace the figure of Bigfoot to a combination of factors and sources, including folklore surrounding the European wild man figure, and folk believing among Native Americans and loggers as a cultural increase in environmental concerns. A majority of scientists have historically discounted the existence of Bigfoot, considering it to be a combination of folklore and misidentification rather than living animals. But to those who have seen one, no scientific explanation will do. That's why today we're with Bigfoot expert and cryptozoologist Jeff Stewart. Jeff has regularly appeared on national TV shows and on the convention circuit as an expert on Bigfoot. His descriptions of the beast, unlike others, is not built on circumstantial evidence alone, but also on his eyewitness accounts.
I was looking for mayhaws to make jelly down in a dried up slough bed. And I had walked down this dried up slough bed, and I got to a certain point and I heard a crash to the left of me. And I walked over to look, and there was a limb probably about bigger around as a little bit bigger around than a Coke can, laying on the ground about 2.5, 3 foot long. And I'm looking up in the trees to see where it came from, and there's nothing in the canopy overhead big enough for this limb to have come from. At that time, I hear a loud thud behind me. And on that slough bed, the top was dry, but the bottom was still kind of a little quaky. And I felt it when it hit the ground. And I spun around, and when I did, behind me, on the ground, was, for lack of a better term, it was somebody. They had jumped out of the tree, landed on the ground, and they had, like when you jump from a height and you cushion yourself with your legs, and their rear end was sitting on their heels. Hands were flat on the ground. And I'm standing there, I'm looking at this going, man, boy, what in the world is going on here? And I reached for my gun. I was carrying a rifle over my shoulder. I reached for it. And something just said, it's not right. So I reached for the camera that I had, so I wanted to try to get a picture. And this is all taking place in a matter of seconds. At that point in time, it took off running, and as it ran, it took its hands and reached in front of it and would pull at the same time as it ran. And it covered about a 60-yard opening in the woods in 3 to 4 seconds, faster than I've ever seen a football player. I played college football and stuff, and I never saw anybody run that fast. And I went back and I told my dad, I was like, you're not gonna believe this. And told him what happened, and he was like, nobody's ever gonna believe that. And I was like, well, it happened. Now, describing the creature that I saw both times, not this big gorilla that you hear people describe, and when I hear people describe a monkey in the woods, kind of Bigfoot, I cringe, because I've been face to face with these things twice. And neither time did it look like a monkey or a gorilla. It looked like a person.
Coming up next, we travel into the forests of far east Texas to camp out with Jeff and head into the woods to find Bigfoot. We traveled to far east Texas to visit a nationally known cryptozoologist and explore the woods in search of the elusive legend Bigfoot. From Teneha, Texas, we first traveled the highway, then the farm to market road, then the county road, the dirt road, and then past the sputtering gas well to the old brick house. Hey, this won't be so bad, right?
Are you sure this is where we're supposed to be?
Think so.
Where's the walls?
I have no idea. This,
The bedroom.
I wouldn't have expected this to be a studio.
You say studio?
Like a studio apartment?
Oh, did he say that?
No.
Oh.
Isn't that
this
what you
is-
call it when a room is completely
Yeah, well,
open?
it's one big open room, but it wasn't originally.
What's all over the floor?
I don't think I want to know, but pretty soon our beds are going to be there, so we
Yeah,
better
they
set
will
up
be.
camp. Okay, well, I want to get my bed.
Yeah, I'll get mine set up too. You
When's Jeff supposed to get here?
hopefully in a few minutes, said something about grabbing dinner. So,
Dinner.
yeah.
All right.
Well, let's go get our stuff.
So we're getting ready. Jeff is making chili. He's getting ready. We're going to have chili, and then we're going out and doing our Bigfoot hunt here. But I want to show you what the other Jeff is doing. The other Jeff, being the cameraman for the show, decided that the house, which you saw the inside of earlier, which is empty, no walls, no nothing, needs to be warmer. And it's a little cool out here tonight. So Jeff decided he wants to put a fire in the fireplace, so he's over here chopping.
Yeah, we'll see.
Are you using a machete on logs?
Yeah,
That's the only sharp thing we have out here, isn't it?
pretty much.
Wood chips are flying.
It'll break off. Love how he goes for the smallest piece.
Well, you gotta have small pieces to start with, you know. Do we have any kindling in there?
Yeah, just a little bit here behind us.
Okay, y'all. I'll work on this part.
Okay.
Didn't want to
Break it off. Really would like that piece.
Maybe we'll overdub some Hulk sounds in there later
Yeah.
on. Sure. Get close.
So y'all in the background laughing at all of us? So are y'all in the background laughing at us?
I'm gonna overdub a Hulk soundtrack to this, and then laugh track too.
Wow, Bob, look, you finished long before
I
Jeff.
chopped all this before he chopped that one piece. Does it need to be smaller though? It's a little fireplace.
Yeah.
Well, on you too.
I kind of swallowed a few pieces, so
Yeah, it's fun.
It's good for you, Jeff.
High
it's-
in fiber.
fiber in your diet.
Yeah.
Chew on some wood. Good for you. We don't know where this has been though. In the woods, probably.
It was right there.
We're here in the woods with the mighty Jeff as he chops up wood for his fire. What are you doing, Jeff?
Chopping up wood for my fire.
Okay, I'll stand over here.
About to make some delicious chili.
And what all's gonna be in this chili?
If I told you that, then I'd have to kill you.
It's venison chili though, right?
Actually, it's not going to be venison.
Oh, okay.
Great. That was good. Coffee came open.
Oh no.
My box smells good. We forgot to thaw out the venison.
Oh,
So,
so we're having
just
Beef
regular
chili.
beef chili.
okay. Chili's chili, man. What do you have in store for us tonight?
Just a slight little tiny walkabout.
Warming up by this fire, then heading out into the dark to find the big hairy guy himself, and we're not talking about Jeff Miller. Hey. We're near Teneha, Texas, setting up camp in an old gutted house near the woods where the legendary Bigfoot was once spotted by our guide, cryptozoologist Jeff Stewart. Jeff made us some homemade chili, set up camp, and now we're getting ready to head into the woods to hunt the legendary creature. What do you have in store for us tonight?
Just a slight little tiny walkabout.
Slight little tiny walkabout, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have to be quiet. We're gonna have to keep them quiet.
I think we're going to approach it kind of like hikers that encounter Bigfoot or something. You know, they're not being quiet. They're walking through the woods and things. We're not trying to capture evidence or anything. We're just maybe trying to get a glimpse or have a rock thrown at us or a stick thrown at us or anything along that lines. And, you know, we probably 99% chance we're not going to have anything or see anything, but people like to make fun of Bigfooters and things like that go out there. But, you know, we could be in a bar drinking, and I ain't saying nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, but, you know, I could be chasing wild women. I could be doing bad stuff. I could be, you know, stepping out on my wife or anything. But instead, I'm down here in the woods looking for Bigfoot. And when I leave here, I have had exercise. I've been out in nature. I have not harmed anything. You know, I've just had a good time and went home.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let's go have a time out in the woods and see if we can rustle up something out there.
Absolutely.
What you got there, Jeff?
Just a small little insurance against hogs.
Against hogs, because they're out there.
A lot of them. If we come across a mama and some babies, she's probably not going to like us very much. And you get one of them cornered, and they'll sure do some damage to you.
Insurance policy against such. Ready to go. Let's do this thing.
We are right now about a half mile from any of my 3 encounters.
That's right, he said 3. We heard earlier about one of those encounters. But what about the others?
My father and I had caught a large, what we call a mess of catfish, and we had put it in a live box and floated this live box out into the river, tethered back to shore with a rope to keep them alive until we were ready to clean those fish. The next morning, we went down to retrieve our fish, and when we got there, the box, there was probably 100 pounds of fish or better in this box. The box itself probably weighed 30 to 50 pounds. So something had pulled this 150 pounds worth of box and fish up out of the water onto dry land. The lid was a spring-hinged design with a latch, and it had been tied with rope. The rope had been untied. The hinge depressed and opened, and whatever it was had sat there and eaten the fish and threw the bones on the ground, the heads and the bones. And all around it were bare, what looked like human footprints. Now, we're talking wintertime here. It was February, March. It was a 30-some-odd degree morning. There was frost on the ground. Nobody's running around barefooted in the mud. And my dad turned and he looked at me and he said, "It's true." And I said, "What's true, Dad?" He said, "Those stories you tell about Bigfoot," he said, "that's the only thing that could have done this. What else could have done this?" And, you know, you got to think, Bigfoot, rabbit, probably a pretty good meal.
Yeah. Nice little McRabbit.
And a lot of times just to get a response from anything out in the woods, like doing a barred owl, you can sit there and a lot of times you'll get a response from,
What the heck was that? What is that?
owls. I called in the owls.
But that's got to add a whole new dimension to hunting for you, because you're able to just whip it up.
Because I was raised doing that. We didn't have money to go buy expensive calls.
And coming up next, we venture further into the woods to see if Jeff can call up the legendary Bigfoot. We're in the woods near Teneha, Texas, searching for the legendary Bigfoot with cryptozoologist Jeff Stewart.
I do not subscribe to call blasting and things like reported Bigfoot screams, reported Bigfoot howls and things, because how do we know what we're saying?
True.
You've heard the joke about the 3 guys that died and went to hell, right?
No.
They went to hell. One guy was from Texas A&M, one from University of Texas, and one from Baylor. And they get down, and Satan's sitting there, and he's like, fellas, I've only got room for 2 of you, so I'm gonna let one of you go. So if you can name anything that I can't do, then I'll let you go back. I'll set you up. I will make you a king. I will make you rich. I'm your wildest dream. So the guy from A&M steps up, and he's sitting there thinking. He looks up, and there's a military jet just screaming across the sky. He said, catch that and paint it yellow. Satan reaches up and he grabs it, paints it yellow, sticks it back in the sky, and it takes off. Poof, he's gone to hell. The guy from Baylor, he steps up there and he's like looking around. He's looking around and he looks and he sees a shooting star, and he says, catch that and paint it yellow. So Satan reaches up and plucks it out of the sky, paints it yellow, and sticks it back, and off it goes. Poof, he's gone. The guy from UT steps up there, and Satan says, well, he said, you know, I only had room for 2. He said, but if you don't get this right, I will make room for you. He's sitting there, and he's catch that and paint it yellow.
As far as these TV shows go, is there any merit to what they do?
You know, I was on one, and it was legit. I'll say that. And I'll go ahead and say Survivor Man Bigfoot was very legitimate. Les Stroud, who is a dear friend of mine to this day, we spent 9 days together filming. And I mean, he was really looking, because he strapped a camera to himself and disappeared for 16, 18 hours into the woods, and, you know, didn't come out. He was gone overnight by himself, didn't come out. He was in there looking. We did self-filming. There was not producers, directors, and everything with us all the time. So we were out by ourselves. We set out camera traps. We put out food. We put out all kinds of things, DNA traps, all of these things, and actually really tried. The only problem with it is you can't expect to gain anything in 9 days. And if you travel all over the country, going to different regions, and you only spend 8 or 9 days in each region, then you really can't expect a result whenever we have people that have been researching in those areas for decades with little to no result. Yeah. So first and foremost, it's TV. Yeah. We all know that we have an entertainment value that we have to meet.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. It's not trying to scam anybody. It's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. It's what we have to do, or nobody's going to want me on their next show. Nobody's going to want to watch your next episode if there's not entertainment value to that episode. So we can't blame all of them. Now, a few of them I've been on, it was a 100% from the get-go. We're not really trying to do anything. We're sleeping in the motel. We're not really camping out in the woods.
Yeah.
They drive out in big, long Escalade SUVs, step out, film for 30 minutes, step back in, and go back to the hotel.
We settled in for a cold night in that shell of a house. Truth is, we didn't make it. Our crew was gone before sunup due to a formidable combination of extreme cold, a dying fire, and a popped air mattress or two. Jeff was understanding as we retreated to our SUVs. Unlike Jeff, we've never set eyes on Bigfoot. Our drive isn't quite as strong. Someday, on some dark trail on a future expedition, we might meet the legendary Bigfoot, just not on this trip. Down the road, there's another lost legend waiting to be discovered. And on Expedition Texas, we're going to find it.